Okay, my name is Danny Acosta, and I was born September the 6th, 1934. I was born in Tampa, but actually was raised in Key West. See, my father was from Key West, my mother was from Tampa. I saw her in Crest with a friend of mine, and I said, oh my goodness, that's the girl that I fell in love with since I was a young boy in Tampa. I said, you know what? I told him, his name is Robert Pazel. I told him, I said, Robert, I'm gonna marry that girl. And he looked at me and says, get out of here, you know, how do you know? Right there across from Anon ice cream parlor, there was an Anon ice cream parlor next to the Cuban Club, and right across from it there was a two-story old house. And but we loved that house, and like I said, that's where I grew up, became a man, because I was 11 when we first moved there. 11, 19, I think it was. In fact, I walked in there one day, and I asked the lady, could I go to the back? I explained to her that I had lived there, you know, before this place was built. He says, oh, by all means, go right ahead. So I walked in the back and I looked around, and when I was 3 years old, my father put a pair of maracas in my hand, and he started to teach me how to play maracas. As I grew up, around 7 or 8, by that time we moved to Tampa. That was the last time we moved to Tampa. My mother was pregnant of my brother, Nilo. And in Tampa, my father made a dancing team out of my sister, Amelia, and I. We danced, you know, professionally, you know, different shows and theater and whatnot. So when we moved to Key West, Boza was very popular in those days. They had a group of 50 different members that did different kinds of dances, besides the Comparsa dancers. And my father went and talked to him, and he took us in right away, because it was another thing to add to the show, you know, two young people dancing. Eventually we became the leaders of the Comparsa dancers. We traveled Miami, Tampa, St. Augustine, but mostly we entertained the tourists in Key West. And every time there was a big dance, we'd have a comparsa start from the other end of Duval Street all the way down. And I mean, people would just walk right out. As soon as I got up there, I'd take my shirt off, put my other shirt, and go to play. Because I was in the band too, see? And we'd start playing music, and people would just flock. I mean, we used to get wonderful crowds. And a lot of them were tourists. I mean, they would go crazy coming to watch the Comparsa dancers and then enjoy the Latin music, you know, and the dancing. But yes, those were great days, I tell you. Yeah, it was Boza's Comparsa, and then he started in 1938. That's when he started the Comparsa. Of course, I was 4 years old then. But every year, I mean, there would be any celebration in Key West, you knew the Comparsa was there first, you know. And then, of course, we'd have a dance at the Cuban Club. See, we had no TVs in those days. Plus, like I said, he had a group of 50 members that were Comparsa dancers and other dancers, entertainers, vocalists. He had a little bit of everything. And he used to have a wonderful, wonderful show. Yeah, my sister Amelia, she had a beautiful voice, and she danced. We danced together for many years. And like I said, we joined the Boza's Comparsa group. And then we used to do some shows at the San Carlos every Thursday, I think it was. And we used to sing together, duet, and then I would sing with the band. She would sing Mexican songs. She dances with me a little bit on the show, which that was back in the 70s, late 70s, I think it was. And yeah, many people still remember her. Everybody loved her. She was a very sweet person. My first teacher, of course, was my father. But as I grew up, like I said, my buddy Chavez, we were like brothers. We hung around since we were young. And he started to teach me the bongos, because he told me, he says, you learn the bongos first, then the conga is easier, much easier, which it was. So he started teaching me the bongo, and I caught on pretty fast. And then I went into the conga. So I was a vocalist of the group, and I always used to have a couple of sets of congas in front of me with a mic. And then I would do some show with the bongos, and it was interesting, you know, because that's what I love to do. Well, I was 15 years old. I never forget. It was Sergio Milian. He was the leader. He was a trumpet player. We had Babontin. Both of them has passed away. Babontin on the piano, Buddy Chavez on the bongos. We had Norby, who played the conga. He didn't play the conga, but we used him as a, you know. Then we had Mario Roque, who was one of my neighbors, play the claves, and then I would be the vocalist with the maracas. That's when I started to sing.